We've looked at the purpose and content for a job description, and now we're going to consider the person specification. They're often confused as the same thing, but the clue is in the title. Just as the job description describes the job, the person specification describes the person that's required to do the job. When you ask a client to provide details of the job they want to recruit for, it's likely that they'll launch enthusiastically into describing the person they'd love to hire. This is the person specification and not the job description. The person specification describes the attributes, skills, experience, and qualifications required of the person to do the job properly. Its key function is to identify the best person for the job. It underpins the selection process by listing all the elements that are essential to the job, as well as those which are nice to have or desirable. Without essential elements, the job cannot be fulfilled. For example, to be a delivery driver, you need a valid and current driving licence. Without this, a candidate is unable to drive legally, unable to do the job, and therefore clearly unsuitable. Desirable elements simply enhance the suitability of a candidate for the role. Let's take the example of the delivery driver further. A desirable attribute may be specific knowledge of a geographic area where there are a large number of orders. Such knowledge could have a significant and positive impact on the pace of delivery, giving the candidate a clear edge over the others. It's always worth referencing the person specification when advertising, when shortlisting, and when interviewing. It adds similar value to the job description, helping to define the desired outcome, identify relevant advertising media, screen and shortlist responses, as well as providing guidance for inducting and training new recruits. With a good person spec, you can better target your advertising. Job seekers can match themselves more closely to a role before deciding whether or not to apply, helping to filter your response. So, what's in this high-value, multi-purpose brief? A good person specification will detail what's required to fulfill the requirements of the job, including qualifications, education or training, skills, knowledge and aptitudes, previous experience, job-related competencies, and personal qualities. Not only do you need to consider which criteria are essential and which desirable, you also need to define how these requirements will be tested and assessed during the selection process. A good tip for producing a meaningful person specification is to start with the job description. Use it to guide the content, taking into consideration all the personal elements required to do the job properly and deliver the best performance. It should logically summarise the characteristics the successful candidate needs to display and define how these characteristics will be assessed. Assessment can take many forms, including an interview, skills tests, or work-based assessments, and the main driver here is to ensure any assessment undertaken is objective. Adding criteria that cannot be assessed or which are based on subjective opinion make for an unfair and potentially discriminatory recruitment process. A good person specification must not be subjective or discriminatory, but allow for diversity, considering the widest range of people potentially capable of undertaking the role. Any criteria relating to personal qualities or circumstances must be directly related to the job and applied equally to all groups, irrespective of protected characteristics such as age, gender, or religion.